Hi, Charlie. It's February, and this month I've already made several recipes that I absolutely love. I started the month by making kefir. Kefir is a yogurt-like dairy-based product that you can make from milk. You can buy some starter bacteria cultures for kefir at the store. And then all you have to do is boil the milk and add a little packet of the starter cultures. Pour it into a jar or some kind of closed container and set it somewhere to ferment for about 24 hours. And then you put it in the fridge to preserve it. It's absolutely delicious, and it's an easy way and cheap way to get a yogurt-like product and also to get a probiotic that's fairly inexpensive. I also made some Basil Mint Pesto. Pesto is one of my favorite things in the world to make. And adding the little touch of mint really helps make it greener, lighter, fresher, more exhilarating to eat. Pesto is simple. You add garlic. Basil, of course, is the main ingredient. I like to always add pine nuts. And in this case, we're doing pesto and a couple of sharp aged cheeses like Parmesan. All you have to do is sort of cut up the ingredients. Here I'm grating some of the cheese. And then when everything is ready, you finally add it to a food processor or a blender, and you just blend it up. Sometimes it takes a couple of tries to get everything in. It's always a lot that reduces down to a little. I tend to like a really intense, thicker pesto rather than a lighter, smoother one. Something that's more like a paste than an oil or a dressing. And so I tend to add a lot of ingredients that are thicker, like the pine nuts and the cheeses. Like I said, you keep adding all of the good stuff until you have a full container of thick and chunky pesto. But of course, you can make it thinner by adding fewer contents, especially fewer cheeses or nuts, and potentially more olive oil. Just look at this beautiful color. And it smells fantastic. I can't wait to try. Just remember, pesto should always be stored in the fridge, and you should eat it roughly within a week and a half to avoid it spoiling. I also made a wonderful and delicious arugula tart. It was supposed to be a dandelion pine nut tart, but I wasn't able to find any dandelion leaves at this time of year, so I used arugula instead. It also has that bitter quality to the leaves. I started by making this pie crust. Honestly, I'm not great at baking or at making pie crusts, so I did my best. You'll see, it turned out a little bit sad, but I have to tell you, it tasted amazing. It was delicious and flaky and wonderful. Really, it was a lot of butter. I feel like it was mostly butter and then a little bit of flour. I probably could have used more flour in the ratio, and the way I rolled it out, I maybe could have done a better job of making sure all of the bits were connected. Like I said, baking is not my favorite activity, so I'm not very good. What I've done here is combine the flour with a little bit of salt and some butter in a food processor. And now I'm going to add it into a bowl, all this blended material, and add a couple really cold teaspoons or tablespoons, I should say, of water, and then just knead it, mix it up. And then the process from here is to get it into a state where you can roll it out into a relatively symmetrical sort of shape, so that you can add it into whatever shape of pan that you have. You can see the picture in the cookbook is a really long rectangular tart pan. I have an equivalent sized pan, but it's a round 9-inch pan shape, which you'll see coming up in a little bit. I did have to make some space to roll this out. In my tiny apartment, there isn't a lot of space to roll out a big piece of dough. Eventually, I was able to get it flat and wide enough to put it into the 9-inch pan and fill it in to all of the crevices and tap it around the edges. Put it in the oven to bake for about a half an hour with some foil on top, and then I would take the foil off and bake it for another 15 minutes. While it was baking, I cut 2 leeks, which are an onion-like vegetable in flavor, at least. And then I would place them, after cutting them into medallions, into a pan with 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and saute them for also about 15 minutes, so it would time out well with baking the crust. Next, I added some milk and let it come to hot temperature close to a boil. Eventually, once this mixture was cooked, I strained out most of the leeks with a fork into a little container and then poured them into the baked pie crust. I spread them out along the bottom of the pie crust, and then I seasoned them with salt, pepper, and my favorite lavender herb blend that I like to buy in the summer. I cracked 3 eggs into my 1 cup container. And then I poured them and whisked them into the milk, butter, olive oil, leek seasoned blend that I had on the stove. Finally, I poured this blend into the pie crust on top of the leeks and the arugula that I put on top of the leeks. That was supposed to be dandelion greens, but we'll do what we can do. And then finally, when we're all done here, I will place pine nuts on top of the mixture that I have poured onto the leeks and the arugula. Then it's back into the oven for another 35 minutes before we can even think about having a bite. Oh, it smells amazing. I hope you get to try this recipe with Grammy. It is delicious. I loved it for dinner this week. It's especially good with a dollop of the Basil Mint Pesto and an arugula salad. Thanks for watching. See you next time.